Buckle up, love, because I'm about to dive into a mind-bending flick called Cuckoo. Now, I'm not here to hand out unnecessary applause, but trust me, this film, it's going to grip you from start to finish. The concept is twisted, fresh, and it'll make you question reality. Exactly what you want in a top-notch body horror film. Now, let's kick off. Picture this: a quiet, eerie little house where we meet our lovely couple, just minding their own business. But there's this odd tension in the air, like something's about to crack wide open. Out of nowhere, you hear shouting, full on row, and right in the middle of it, their young daughter stirs awake. Now, most kids would just roll over and tuck back into their blankets, right? Not this one. Suddenly, the girl starts acting like she's been plugged into some strange current, writhing about like something's crawling under her skin. Seizures, yeah? But there's more to it. It's not just some medical issue. There's this unnatural vibe about it, like something's off. Next thing, she's in her room, calm as you like. Or is she? Nah, mate, she's far from it. She steps out of the house, and here's where things start getting properly weird. You see her, right? Her ears start twitching. Not in some subtle, maybe I imagined it way, no. It's like they're bloody alive, flapping around like an animal's. Imagine the ears of a bird or some wild creature picking up on something none of us could hear. And she's drawn to it. She moves like she's possessed, straight towards the forest, leaving that creepy little house behind. Now we're with a family: teenage girl named Greg, her dad Louis, her stepmom Beth, and Alma, her mute half-sister. Greg's got no love for Beth. To her, the woman's no more than a stranger, not a mum, not even close. They've packed up, moved to a new town, and arrived at some swanky resort. They meet the owner, Koning, who gives Gresh a weird, lingering stare. You know the type, the bloke who's always eyeing someone like he's up to no good. He even flirts with Beth right in front of Louis. The nerve of this guy? Yeah? Now, our Alma communicates through some text-to-speech device. It's a bit unsettling hearing this robotic voice coming out of the kid. Anyway, as they're all settling in, Gretch's off in the toilet, listening to old voice messages from her mum. The real one, the one who passed away. The connection's clear. Gretch misses her mum, and this new family setup isn't doing her any favors. Beth barges in, tells her to hurry up, and that's when things get creepy. In the stall next to Greg, someone or something is already there. We catch a glimpse of feet. Spooky stuff, right? But just like that, it's brushed aside as they head to the resort gardens. Alma, though, starts acting odd. She's staring into the woods, and her dog's growling at something unseen, something out there. Enter Dr. Bonomo, the neighbor, a hospital superintendent who joins the scene just in time for more weirdness. Koning, the resort owner, introduces him to Greg. As if things weren't strange enough, Greg heads back to her room and listens to more of her mum's messages, feeling more and more out of place in this family and this strange resort. She wants to leave, to go back to her old life, but for that, she needs cash. And here's where Koning steps in again, all slimy charm. He offers Greg a job, receptionist at the resort, with a tidy salary to boot. Greg's dad isn't thrilled, doesn't think she'll do it, but Gretch, needing the cash, agrees. The job starts off normal enough, but soon things go south. A guest shows up, vomiting and acting all strange. Greg shakes it off and heads home, where she starts singing. Alma's watching her, but then Alma begins twitching and convulsing in a way that's all too familiar, just like we saw earlier. Greg rushes over to help, but as she touches Alma, something bizarre happens. Alma attacks her, scratching her face, and as if by magic, her hair falls out. Grek's parents barge in, and of course, they assume Grek's to blame for the whole ordeal. Now, things get tense. Grek's life is spiraling, and no one's listening. Enter Henry, the detective. He's sniffing around, asking questions about the hooded woman Grek had seen earlier. But Grek doesn't spill the beans right away. Instead, she's drawn to Ed, a girl who shows up at the resort and who seems to have a strange connection to Grek. The two of them decide to run away together, but things don't go as planned. On their escape, they're thrown into a surreal, nightmarish loop. The hooded woman appears again, and before they know it, their car crashes, leaving them injured and vulnerable. Grek wakes up in the hospital, with Koning lurking nearby, his intentions as murky as ever. He seems to know more than he's letting on, and it's clear he's been pulling some sinister strings behind the scenes. Grek's father shows up, but he's more worried about Alma than his injured daughter, which stings Grek deeply. But the plot thickens as Henry, the detective, reveals that he was the one who saved Grek from the hooded woman. Now, he needs her help to catch this murderous figure, but it's all got to be hush-hush. He promises Grek that if she helps him, he'll make sure she gets out of this mess. But until then, they've got to play it cool. As Grek wrestles with her place in the family and the eerie events happening around her, things escalate quickly. Alma's seizures get worse, and Grek's parents are convinced it's her music that's causing the fits. But Grek knows better. She knows there's something far darker at play. And as she and Henry begin to piece together the mystery of the hooded woman, the truth is more twisted than anyone could have imagined. The scene shifts dramatically as Grek storms out of her room, filled with frustration. She immediately spots Konik standing with Alma, and something in his demeanor sends a chill down her spine. He takes out the same eerie flute, but holds off on playing it. Tension fills the air as Grek's father and stepmother appear. Grek, unable to contain her anger, confronts her father with a barrage of questions. She demands to know why they are all gathered there instead of being home, accusing Koning of dragging them into something sinister. As Grek lashes out, Koning steps forward, unfazed. He coolly explains that everyone present belongs there, as if this strange gathering had been destined all along. He then begins to play the flute, the unsettling melody hanging in the air, but Gresh is too consumed with fury to be fully entranced by it. Her attention is diverted when Konik casually mentions that there is a parcel waiting for her. Curiosity piqued, Grek checks the package and discovers her late mother's belongings. Confused and angry, she turns to her father, Louis, who drops another bombshell. He sold their house. This revelation is too much for Gretch. Her rage boils over, and in a fit of fury, she punches her father hard, sending him reeling. She storms off, locking herself in her room. Inside, she finds solace in the one connection that grounds her, her mother. She listens to old voice messages from her, letting the familiar voice soothe her pain. Among the messages, she stumbles upon one from Alma, sent through a text-to-speech program. Alma, it turns out, saw Grek as a sister and harbored no ill feelings toward her, despite the cold treatment she had received. This realization hits Grek hard, stirring a sense of guilt within her. She had never truly accepted Alma, but now it was too late to change the past. After composing herself, Gretch ventures downstairs. With her family ties shattered, she turns to Konik, questioning him about his own family. He responds nonchalantly, revealing that his family had gone to the hospital due to Alma's worsening seizures. In a surprising twist, Connick offers Gretch an escape route. He suggests she run away, leaving a note behind, and even promises to steal some money from her house to help fund her getaway. He agrees to drop her off at a nearby station, giving her a chance at freedom. Greg, feeling lost and betrayed by those closest to her, agrees to this plan. Connick takes her to her house, leading her inside. As they enter, Greg senses something off, but before she can react, Connick sprays a sedative-like substance in her face, rendering her unconscious. When she comes to, she realizes she has been locked inside his pool house, with Connick communicating through a speaker. Dazed and confused, Gresh demands to know what he sprayed on her. Connick's response is chilling. He explains that it was pheromones, a chemical agent that alters human behavior, making them act like animals or perform bizarre tasks. Then the true horror unfolds. Connick reveals the existence of an ancient species, similar to humans but more powerful and deadly. These creatures had once thrived in ancient times, but now they were endangered. Koning's experiments aimed to revive and control them. Greg realizes that Alma is one of these creatures, which is why she had always seemed different. The adult members of this species implant their eggs inside human women, using them as hosts to birth their young. Once implanted, these women unknowingly raise the creatures as their own, much like the cuckoo bird lays its eggs in another bird's nest. As Connick continues his terrifying exposition, he explains that the flute he plays is not just a musical instrument, it is a tool to control these creatures. The sound of the flute lulls them into submission, allowing Koning to manipulate their behavior. Suddenly, everything clicks into place for Greg. The strange behavior Alma had exhibited, her sensitivity to music, and the mysterious connection to Greg's family were all part of this dark, twisted plot. Even more disturbing, Greg realizes that her own parents had been involved in this experiment from the beginning. In a horrifying twist, Connick reveals that Greg was next in line to become a host for the species. He had orchestrated everything to implant one of the creatures inside her, just as it had been done to her mother. As Connick prepares to complete the process, summoning one of the creatures to carry out the implantation, Greg is faced with a life or death situation. At the last possible moment, Henry bursts onto the scene, gun in hand. He shoots Connick, saving Greg from the unspeakable fate that awaited her. Together, they escape the pool house, but the nightmare is far from over. Gretch is now caught in a web of lies, realizing that her father, stepmother, and even Alma had been part of this horrific cycle for years. Her mother had been one of the original hosts, and her father had sold their house to cover up the evidence. Henry, fueled by his own vendetta against the creatures, explains that his wife had fallen victim to the same experiment. Determined to put an end to this madness, Henry vows to kill all of the creatures involved, including Alma. Greg, however, is torn. Despite everything, she feels a deep connection to Alma, a bond that transcends species. As the story reaches its climax, Connick, desperate and enraged, goes on a killing spree, murdering the doctors involved in the experiment. Gretch, now fully aware of the horror she is entangled in, must make a choice. When Henry tries to kill Alma, Greg steps in, stabbing him to protect her sister. But the story takes one more dark twist when the hooded lady, the true biological mother of Alma, arrives on the scene. In a brutal fight, Gretch kills the hooded lady, severing the last tie to Alma's past. With the hooded lady dead, Gretch turns her attention to Alma. In a poignant moment, she finally accepts Alma as her sister. The two embrace, united by the trauma they had endured. But their ordeal is not over yet. As Greg and Alma attempt to escape, Connick returns, hell-bent on completing his experiment. Alma, however, uses her species' special abilities to unleash a powerful, high-pitched scream, incapacitating Connick. In the chaos that follows, both Henry and Connick are killed in a deadly shootout. In the aftermath, Greg and Alma find themselves free but forever changed. As they leave the scene, a mysterious figure named Ed appears, offering them a ride. The story ends on a haunting note, leaving the future of Gretch, Alma, and their complicated bond hanging in the balance. The tale weaves together elements of horror, science fiction, and psychological thriller, creating an atmosphere of dread and suspense. Greg's journey from a confused, angry daughter to a determined survivor facing unimaginable horrors is as gripping as it is terrifying. The web of lies, experiments, and family secrets builds to a chilling crescendo, making this a story that lingers long after the final scene. The movie Cuckoo takes the body horror genre to a whole new level. We're talking about a species that mirrors the behavior of the actual cuckoo bird, only in the most grotesque way imaginable. This humanoid species has been around forever, and one of the last remaining members, a hooded female, is at the center of the story. Like the cuckoo bird laying its eggs in another bird's nest, these creatures do the same, but with humans. They implant their eggs into human women who unknowingly become hosts. As the offspring grow, they seek out their biological mothers in a terrifying twist. You saw it early in the movie when a girl experiences strange symptoms. It's the child inside her trying to return to its real mother. The same fate was planned for Greg. Now, how does this horrifying reproduction happen? That slime-like substance the hooded woman carried? It wasn't just slime. It contained mites used for insemination. The hooded woman produced it through intimate interaction with the male of the species. Here's the kicker. You never actually see the males in the movie. The theory is that the males are only used for breeding purposes, while the females are the hunters and manipulators. Maybe they live deep in the forest, only called upon when needed. In terms of power, these creatures are insanely strong. Remember how Alma threw her sister across the room? These beings have otherworldly strength, possibly because they originated from another planet. They could even be alien creatures that crashed on Earth ages ago and have been struggling to survive ever since. And that's where Connick comes in. He's not just some side character. He's been helping them, possibly for his own twisted goals. He can manipulate time loops and boost their population, building an army of these creatures for reasons we can only speculate. The hooded woman targeting Greg wasn't random either. These creatures saw Greg as a threat to their survival, and they attacked her for that reason. The resort was a trap designed to lure couples in, so these beings could implant their eggs. Humans would believe the children they raised were theirs, but in reality, these kids belonged to the species and would eventually return to their real mothers. Music, especially the flute, played a bizarre role in the movie too. Alma and others from the species had violent reactions to music, causing seizures. It's as if certain sounds triggered something deep within them, leading to physical breakdowns. This sensitivity even caused some women at the resort to die during implantation. They couldn't survive the process and choked on their own vomit. Connick, of course, had control over the situation. He used specific sounds, possibly ones he researched or created, to manipulate these creatures. His knowledge of their biology and reactions gave him an upper hand, making him a major player in the story. And Ed? His connection with Grek is a mystery. Could he be part of this species too? There are no clear answers yet, but his character definitely leaves room for speculation. Cuckoo isn't just about gross body horror. It's about control, manipulation, and survival on a deeper level. It's the kind of film that crawls under your skin, messes with your head, and makes you question everything. That's why it stands out. It's equal parts disturbing and thought-provoking.